Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Politics with Sherry Jacobus. Thank you for subscribing. And if you're not yet a subscriber and you like what we do here, or you want to, talk to everybody in the comments because they get pretty good, help us out and hit that subscribe button. So Trump is a big fat liar. Newsflash, right? Um, things he says, it is never what he says it is. Never. And we'll start. Let's just go with he just now pardoned one of the world's most notorious drug traffickers, former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez. He was convicted of drug trafficking last year, got 45 years in prison, and he was trying to traffic 400 tons of cocaine into our country. And Trump pardoned him. What's that about? It's always ulterior motive. These criminals that he pardons, they owe him and then they'll commit more crimes for him. That's how it goes. That's what his cabinet is about. That's what his staff is about. We've been talking about that the last couple of days. He lied about the tariffs, of course, and now Costco is suing the Trump administration, yay, for a refund of the tariffs it has paid since he imposed duties on nearly all imported products earlier this year. So they're fighting back because they finally figured out Trump is a big fat liar. We also know now that, ABC News reporter Jonathan Karl, in his book Retribution, says that Trump and he claimed that upon arriving at the hospital after his assassination attempt, let's do air quotes on that, in July of 2024, that Trump's first questions were, how is it playing? How does it look on TV? This was fake. It was fake. Let's just face it. It was fake. Accept it. The whole thing was a lie. It was all fake. And Trump didn't care that people got killed in the process. We've talked before about when something sounds so bizarre because it sounds like something that normal people wouldn't do, only really evil people would do. Ask yourself, first and foremost, is Trump capable of it? And if in your heart of hearts, you know it's true, then he probably did it. I personally do believe that Trump has, long before he was president, was responsible for the deaths of many people out of convenience, maybe anger, but usually convenience. So let's look at his foreign policy. Should we use air quotes on that again? Trump foreign policy? All right. So remember all that business about Canada going to make them the 51st state? He wasn't kidding around. He wasn't kidding around. And now claiming that, these drug cartels off the coast of Venezuela, these people all have to be killed. These are the extrajudicial killings where there's no evidence that they're carrying drugs. We don't know who these people are. The boats are way too small to make it to America. They'd have to stop like 26 times to refuel if they were really bringing drugs here. The drug they claim is being manufactured there in Venezuela. It's not. So Trump is just lying because he's getting involved there in the elections and he's backing, well, let's just say a pal. And why? Because of the oil in Venezuela. All right. So here's how this goes. Venezuela has the biggest oil reserves in the world. You know who's number two? Saudi Arabia. I bet you didn't know that Venezuela was number one. That is what Trump wants. He's a pirate. He and his buddies are going to somehow get richer off this. This has nothing to do with drugs coming into this country from Venezuela because they're not. So Saudi Arabia is number two. Iran is number three with the oil reserves. And get this, number four is Canada. That's what this was about. Canada has oil and Trump wanted it. Got that? That's what it was all about. The oil in Canada. Remember when Trump was making a very, very serious attempt to acquire Greenland? We all thought he was joking. It was real. We didn't need them for any national security or national strategic reasons. You know what? They have a vast amount of rare earth minerals that he wanted access to. Literally being a pirate. Trump is a criminal and a traitor and a thief. And yes, I believe either directly or indirectly responsible for the murder, for the deaths of numerous people over the decades. Yeah, I said it. And I think in your heart of hearts, you know it's true. Again, ask yourself, is he capable of it? Too many convenient deaths. Okay? But now we know that all these countries that he's just talking about taking over is for the oil and the rare earth minerals. That is the whole big deal in Ukraine. Well, not exactly just because the Ukraine is the breadbasket of that region, and Putin needs that to feed his own people. Eventually, we would be dependent on Putin if Putin gets Ukraine. Look, we've kicked out, taken away the migrant workers who pick our crops to feed us. The tariffs that make food more expensive or impossible. Farmers are, they can't farm anymore and produce our food. So what happens? We become dependent on other countries. We become dependent finally on Putin if he gets Ukraine for part of our food, for grain. That's what this is about. Can you imagine? This is what you do. You starve your people. First, you make everything too expensive. All the stuff they're doing. You take over the media, so state-run media. You impose these tariffs. You starve your people. A hungry and starved population is a lot easier to manipulate. And then you have a handful of oligarchs that control everything. That's pretty much Russia, isn't it? That is what Trump is doing. It used to sound insane because we couldn't imagine that happening in the United States of America, but it is. It is. It might be too late, but there's still things that we can do. And I think many people are doing them. But I want to remind you of last summer when Trump met with Putin in Alaska. In Alaska. Putin, of course, still thinks of Alaska as being his because it used to be a part of Russia. So Trump actually, now this was when Trump was failing to deliver Ukraine. This was after the brilliant drone attack that Ukrainian President Zelensky launched in Russia, getting inside Russia lines, had these drones that were only $500 a piece. The whole operation was like, what, $45,000 or something like that? So he didn't need other countries weighing in. He didn't need allies to give money. He didn't need to get funding from the U.S. I still do believe that we have people deep inside our IC, our intelligence community, that knew about it and knew not to tell Trump because they knew Trump was a traitor and would tell Putin and give him warning. Yeah. Mike Flynn was furious after that and demanded an investigation because he knew that somebody in our IC knew and didn't tell Trump. And that was a big problem. Sedition, whatever. Treason. No. So after that happened and the air fleet, the attack planes that Putin was using to kill Ukrainian men, women, and children, it was decimated. And Putin was humiliated. And Trump now has outlived his usefulness. So that's when Putin's partner in crime, Elon Musk, started making noises, picking a fight with Trump over the budget like he really cares, and then brought up the Epstein files. This, of course, I've talked about this before. This was their way of starting the process of pushing Trump out. He had outlived his usefulness because he was not able to give advance notice to Putin about the attack. So Trump immediately, now all of a sudden the White House, then they release information about his health, laying the groundwork so that if he has to get out and claim it's for health reasons, he can. Just please don't hurt me, Vlad. So they're playing that, there's that little theater going on, this little game. And then I think Trump wants to back off because he thinks I can take Putin. So I think they're still in that game. But at that time, when they met last summer in Alaska, Trump was groveling. And at that point, because he could not deliver Ukraine to Putin, he could not deliver the rare earth minerals of Ukraine to Putin. He, at that point in time, was talking about giving Vladimir Putin access to the rare earth minerals in Alaska, the United States of America. So when you put all this together and you look at the vast amounts of oil in Venezuela and what Trump is doing there, again, things are never what they seem. They're never what he says they are. Venezuela is about oil. Canada was about oil. Greenland was about rare earth minerals. Trump is literally a pirate. He literally wants to use our military, have people die, in his made up wars so that he can become richer, so he can control the oil and give it to his pals. Never, ever, 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 ever forget that. And if you can find a way to explain that to MAGA, again, it's hard, but those margins we keep talking about, close elections are won or lost in the margins. And if each one of us can change the hearts and mind, or at least change the mind, if they don't have hearts, of one MAGA, and make them understand, they're not real smart. So you got to use the simple things. When you listen to the oil, Venezuela has the most oil reserves in the world. Second is Saudi Arabia. Iran and Canada is number 4. That's what this is about. And use the word pirate. Trump is literally a pirate. He's a criminal. And he's using our military. Do you want your sons and daughters serving in our military under this particular commander in chief? Look what he did with our National Guard. The young woman who was killed because Trump was using the National Guard as political pawns. And he didn't have the flags lowered to half staff. Does that for Charlie Kirk, and he'll go to Charlie Kirk's funeral, but not for the men and women whose lives he sacrifices for his own greed, his own political purposes. I cannot find anything about Trump that's really true. Everything is put out there for some other reason. He's lived his entire life like this. And unfortunately, he got away with it. Law enforcement in New York and federal law enforcement let him get away with it for decades. For decades. And then they let this happen to us on a national level. And we are paying the price. And we're paying a price for a media that just thought it was all fun and games. Now he owns them. And we have to look to foreign media, to actually find out what's really going on in this country. And for independent investigators and independent media, which is why the podcast and the YouTube channels and our Substacks and all the things we're doing. By the way, I'm still working on getting my Substack launched. All of these things, all of us weighing in collectively has more of an impact than, say, cable news. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's what we have right now. But I think it's good, when I do my videos like this, I do about 6 days a week. I need one day off. I like to kind of wrap it around one idea because I know that you guys aren't watching me and other people like me or reading what we write and that sort of thing just to be entertained or informed. At this point, and I can tell by the comments, you all are activists in your own lives. Remember, we've talked about using the power you have, whether you're a governor. Gavin Newsom was a lot of power, and he's using every bit of power and influence he has. We all have different levels, but we all have some. We can vote. We go to the protests. We're on social media, Facebook. My gosh, you probably were even doing around the Thanksgiving table with that one MAGA relative. But anyway, I think it's good that, if you kind of wrap your head around the one idea, and I hate to call it talking points. I have my notes here and I read from them because I kind of think in advance what I want to talk about each day to you. But, just noting which countries have all the oil. And isn't it just odd that those are the ones that Trump is most interested in launching these other little wars against to get the oil? He claims it's about something else, but it is always about the oil. And yes, Trump is willing to have your sons and daughters in our military die for this, for him. Not for the United States of America, not to defend our freedoms and democracy, but for oil, so he and his oligarch buddies can get richer. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.